What happens when an animal that breathes air tries to sleep underwater? Common sense says it drowns, but dolphins, whales, and seals somehow pull it off every single day. Most ocean mammals need to breathe air just like us, but they live in water. So how do they sleep without sinking to the bottom and drowning? And what about fish? Do they even sleep at all? Let's figure this out because, honestly, it's way more interesting than you'd think. First, let's understand the main issue here. Whales, dolphins, seals, and sea lions are all mammals. That means they have lungs, not gills. They need to breathe air from the surface to survive. But here's the thing. Breathing isn't automatic for them like it is for us. When you sleep, your body automatically keeps breathing without you thinking about it. You don't wake up every few minutes to remind yourself to take a breath. But for dolphins and whales, breathing is a conscious choice. They have to actively decide to go to the surface and breathe every single time. So if a dolphin fell into a deep sleep like humans do, it would literally forget to breathe and drown. That's a pretty serious problem when you live in the ocean. Hence, nature had to get creative to solve this. The half-brain solution. Here's where it gets wild. Dolphins figured out how to sleep with only half their brain at a time. Yes, seriously, half their brain sleeps while the other half stays awake. Scientists call this unihemispheric sleep, which is just a fancy way of saying one hemisphere sleeps. While one side of the brain is knocked out and resting, the other side is alert and controlling basic functions like swimming and breathing. Dolphins spend about 8 hours every day in this half-asleep state. They switch which side is sleeping every 2 hours. So the left brain sleeps for 2 hours while the right brain stays awake. Then they swap. During this time, they literally sleep with one eye open. The eye connected to the sleeping half of the brain closes. The eye connected to the awake half stays open and watches for danger. It's like having a built-in security guard that never goes off duty. You might be wondering, why don't dolphins just float at the surface and sleep there? That way they could breathe easily whenever they need to. 2 reasons. First, floating at the surface makes you an easy target for predators. You're totally exposed with nowhere to hide. Second, staying at the surface means you lose body heat faster. The surface water is warmer, but wind and air exposure can cool you down quickly. It's safer to stay a bit deeper, where it's darker and you're harder to spot. But that means you need to be awake enough to swim up for air when needed. Hence the half-brain sleeping trick. Do all ocean mammals do this? Not all of them. Smaller ocean mammals like dolphins and porpoises use the half-brain method because they need to keep moving. Ocean currents can push them around. Predators might attack, and they need to stay warm. But bigger whales, they have a different strategy. Sperm whales, the vertical sleepers. Sperm whales do something absolutely bizarre. They sleep standing up, well, floating up, vertically. Scientists discovered this by accident in 2008 when they found a group of sperm whales just floating nose up in the water like giant telephone poles. They weren't moving at all. At first, researchers thought they were dead or sick. But then after about 10 to 20 minutes, the whales just woke up and swam away like nothing happened. Turns out, sperm whales take short power naps throughout the day. They position themselves vertically, heads pointing slightly upward, and just drift. They're completely unresponsive during this time. You could swim right up to one and it wouldn't even notice. Scientists think they sleep this way because they're so big that ocean currents and predators aren't really a problem for them. They can afford to fully shut down both halves of their brain for short periods. But here's the catch. They only sleep for about 7% of their day. That's roughly 1.5 to 2 hours total in a 24-hour period. That makes them one of the least sleeping mammals on Earth. For comparison, humans sleep about 8 hours a day. Cats sleep 15 hours. But sperm whales, just 2 hours max, split into tiny 10 to 20-minute naps. How do they function on so little sleep? Scientists honestly don't fully understand, but somehow it works for them. Seals, the flexible sleepers. Seals have an interesting situation because they spend time both on land and in water. So they adapted to sleep differently depending on where they are. When seals are on land, they sleep normally like us. Both halves of their brain go to sleep. They have REM sleep where they dream. They're completely knocked out. But when they're in the ocean, they switch to the dolphin method, half-brain sleep. One hemisphere rests while the other stays alert. Scientists figured this out by putting waterproof caps with brain sensors on seals and tracking them for months. When the seals came back to shore, researchers collected the caps and analyzed the data. Pretty clever. Elephant seals, the deep sleepers. Northern elephant seals take it to another level. These seals can hold their breath for over an hour, so they dive deep to sleep. They'll dive down to about 1,000 feet deep, then their brain enters REM sleep. And when they hit REM sleep, something weird happens. They flip completely upside down and start slowly spinning in circles while still sleeping. Scientists think this happens because during REM sleep, your muscles become paralyzed so you don't act out your dreams. For seals underwater, that paralysis makes them flip and drift. The craziest part? Elephant seals only sleep about 2 hours per day when they're at sea. That ties them with African elephants for the least amount of sleep of any mammal. What about fish? So we've covered mammals, but what about actual fish? Do they even sleep? Yes, they do, but it's complicated. Fish don't have eyelids, so they can't close their eyes. That makes it hard to tell when they're sleeping just by looking at them. But scientists have found that fish do have rest periods that count as sleep. For example, zebrafish have been studied extensively. They show clear patterns of activity during the day and rest at night. During rest periods, their brain activity changes, their heart rate slows, and they become less responsive to their surroundings. But here's the weird part. Fish don't sleep for long stretches like we do. They take super short naps, sometimes just a few seconds to a few minutes at a time. Then they wake up, stay alert briefly, and nap again. This makes sense when you think about it. Fish have to worry about predators constantly. Sleeping for 8 hours straight would get you eaten pretty fast. So how do fish not sink? Fish have something called a swim bladder, which is basically an internal floaty. It's an organ filled with gas that helps them stay buoyant in the water without having to constantly swim. So when a fish sleeps, the swim bladder keeps it from sinking to the bottom. The fish can just hover in place with minimal movement. Different fish sleep in different positions. Some float with their heads pointing down. Some point up. Some just rest on the bottom. Some hide in coral or rocks where it's safer. Parrotfish, the mucus sleeping bag. One of the weirdest sleeping strategies belongs to parrotfish. Every night before bed, they secrete a mucus cocoon around their entire body. It takes about 30 minutes to build. Why? The mucus protects them from parasites and helps hide their scent from predators. No predator wants a mouthful of slime, so they leave the parrotfish alone. In the morning, the parrotfish breaks out of the cocoon and goes about its day, then builds a new one the next night. Sharks, the mystery. Here's where things get really confusing. We don't actually know if sharks sleep. Some sharks need to keep moving forward constantly to push water over their gills and breathe. If they stop moving, they suffocate. So how could they possibly sleep? Scientists have observed some sharks slowing down during certain parts of the day, which might be their version of sleep. But we don't have solid proof. Some shark species can pump water over their gills while staying still, so those ones could potentially sleep. But the ones that need to keep swimming, it's still a mystery. There's a theory that sharks might sleep with parts of their brain at a time, similar to dolphins but smaller sections, but we don't have enough evidence to confirm this yet. Octopuses, the dreamer. Now for something completely different. Octopuses sleep, and when they do, it's absolutely wild to watch. Octopuses have two types of sleep, quiet sleep and active sleep. During active sleep, which is similar to REM sleep in humans, their skin changes colors and patterns rapidly. Their eyes move around, they twitch their arms. Scientists think they might be dreaming. Some researchers have watched octopuses during this phase, and it looks like they're acting out hunting or escaping from predators in their sleep. One octopus seemed to be having a nightmare where it was being attacked because it suddenly changed to camouflage colors and its arms started defensive movements while still completely asleep. The crazy part? Octopuses evolved this type of sleep completely independently from mammals. Our last common ancestor with octopuses was over 500 million years ago and had basically no brain. This means sleep evolved separately in both groups because it's just that important for survival. Jellyfish. Sleep without a brain. And just when you thought it couldn't get weirder, even jellyfish sleep. And jellyfish don't even have brains. They have a nerve net instead of a central brain, but they still show sleep-like behavior. During certain times, jellyfish become less active and less responsive to their environment. If you keep a jellyfish awake by disturbing it constantly, the next day it will be even less active and responsive, like it's exhausted. Just like you would be if someone kept waking you up all night. This suggests that sleep existed before brains even evolved. Sleep is so important for survival that even the simplest animals need it. So why is sleep so important? Scientists still don't fully understand why we need sleep, but we know it's absolutely critical. Animals deprived of sleep die. Their immune systems fail, their bodies stop functioning, and eventually they just shut down. Sleep seems to be when the brain cleans itself, consolidates memories, and repairs damage. Even though we spend a third of our lives unconscious, it's somehow necessary for survival. Ocean animals face extra challenges because they can't just lie down in a safe spot and pass out for 8 hours. They had to evolve creative solutions: half-brain sleep, vertical floating, short power naps, mucus cocoons, and more. So how do ocean animals sleep without drowning? The answer is it depends on the animal. The ocean is full of animals that solved one of nature's trickiest puzzles. And honestly, sleeping with one eye open while floating in the middle of the ocean sounds exhausting. If learning about how ocean animals sleep without drowning blew your mind, hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to Ocean Depths for more wild ocean facts. What other ocean mysteries should we explore? Let us know in the comments because the ocean is full of incredible adaptations we're just beginning to understand.